Welcome back everyone to the video, and today we are ranking all, well, I'm not going to say all because technically it's not all wide receivers going to 2024, but a lot of wide receivers going to 2024. Just to kind of briefly go over them, yeah, it's going to be a pretty long tier list. I would say basically all relevant wide receivers going into 2024. I mean, every year there's always a couple guys that have a big year, whether they're like rookies in later rounds or, you know, just guys stepping up big on their teams or something like that. So I'm sure there's probably someone I'm going to go over that's probably, I'm sure there's someone that's going to have a very good season that might not even be on this tier list. Last year, that was Puka Nacua, so I'm sure it'll happen, but this is basically the best we can do with a lot of guys on here. Every team is represented at least one time, I believe. And so today, for the tiers, we have S, A, B, C, and D. I'm not going to have it as far as being like A tier has to be 1,000 yards and stuff like that. I'll have kind of like, you know, just some kind of vague guidelines, I guess, for each tier. It really just kind of depends, and we'll get into all that kind of stuff. But before we do, make sure you guys are subscribed to my channel for more videos like this. I do a lot of team rankings, player rankings, positional rankings. We do a lot of team specific videos coming later this offseason. I've already done the Panthers and the Saints. Next up is going to be finishing up the NFC South, and then further along, you know, as the offseason goes on, we'll be doing more of those. I'll be uploading them all as like one division. So it'll be like all AFC North teams in one video, all AFC West, and so on. Hopefully that makes for a better viewing experience. But as for this tier list right here, I'm going to be doing this one more time this offseason. I always do team rankings, wide receiver rankings, and quarterback rankings twice. I do one in June, and I do one later on in July during training camp, just so you know there's some more context whenever we do the next one. But as of right now, we're just going to right into them. Sorry for like the longer intro there. Starting with A.J. Brown. So like I said, and also last thing I promise, if it's a player that is not really like that big of a factor, I'm not going to spend a ton of time on them because there are so many players to go through. Just throwing that out there. But yeah, A.J. Brown. So last year, Eagles offense was not near as good as they were in 2022. It was kind of just discombobulated. I think a lot of that was due to the coaching. It just was not as smooth under, I think it was Brian Johnson was his name. That doesn't sound right, Brian. I know it was Brian, but either way, I didn't really like the offensive coordinator last year. The play calling was a little weird. It didn't really play to the Eagles' strength that they showed in 2022. But regardless, A.J. Brown is one of the better wide receivers in the entire NFL. I'm putting him S tier. We'll see if I do like a top 5 for S tier. I honestly don't really have one in mind. But at the end of this, if I have like 6 to 7 players in S tier, maybe we'll rearrange it and make like a top 5 for S tier. But we'll see. At the end, I do usually rearrange some guys, though, just in case. Next up is Amari Cooper. Amari Cooper, to me, is one of the most, I don't want to say underrated, but like for how productive of a wide receiver he is, you know, he doesn't get a whole lot of media attention, I feel like. So Amari Cooper is going A tier. I wouldn't quite say he's S tier. I think that some of the guys above him are just a step higher, but he's still an unbelievable wide receiver. I'm hoping that Deshaun Watson can come back and be a somewhat decent quarterback, or else the Browns might find themselves in some trouble. Their backup now is Jameis, so if Watson has to happen to go down again, or whatever happens there, Winston, I think, is one of the better backups in the entire NFL, so not the end of the world there, but yeah, Cooper, I think he has a stable quarterback for the most part, and, you know, him individually, he's an amazing player, so definitely A tier. Next is the first rookie for today. This is A.D. Mitchell, went to the Colts. This is kind of a tough one to rank because the Colts, we didn't really get to see a look of what the Colts are going to look like for the next few years, assuming Anthony Richardson is their guy because he was, you know, out for basically all last year. We saw Minshew in there instead, and obviously, you know, they can't do some of the things they would have liked to do with Richardson in there, like, you know, when you have Gardner Minshew in there. So I do think this will be an interesting season to see the difference because there's going to be a lot different play calling. I mean, you can do a lot more creative stuff with Anthony Richardson in there rather than Gardner Minshew. Josh Downs had a very good year last year, so I'm interested to see where A.D. Mitchell fits in that group. Because you still have like Michael Pittman Jr., Josh Downs, Alec Pierce. I mean, you have pretty good weapons. So I'm going to put him C tier for right now. I might move him up to B tier. I think he is probably more of like a low B tier, high C tier receiver this year. I think he definitely has the talent 100%, but I just personally feel like Josh Downs is going to be quite good in year 2. Pittman's already one of the more underrated guys in the NFL as far as wide receiver goes. So, I don't know. We'll see. We'll leave him C for right now. Next is Amon-Ra St. Brown. So, this is really tough. This is someone that's also kind of like right on the fence there. I'm thinking high A tier. low S tier. I'm going to put him S. We'll see what that does at the end of the video if we move him or not. But Amon-Ra St. Brown is just a huge playmaker. I mean, this guy's so fun to watch. The Lions offense as a whole is really fun to watch. I love that Goff to St. Brown connection. He's an amazing player, and not much more to say about him, to be honest. I mean, I'm sure a lot of you guys that watch this video, probably watch football, you guys know just how deadly of a playmaker he is. Very tough to slow down for opposing defenses, and he's going very high in fantasy drafts this year as well. So, good for him. He's really just got better and better every year he's been in the league so far. I'm going to put him S tier, and we'll come back to that later on in the video. Next is Adam Thielen. So, Adam Thielen, I think last year you maybe could have snuck him into like A tier statistically. As a Panthers fan, a lot of those numbers really just came from him being force-fed the ball because there was no one else on the team. To his credit, he did have a good season, but like those numbers are a little skewed. Like it wasn't as good of a season as it looks on paper. I'm gonna put Thielen B tier. I think he is going to finally, or not finally. I think he's going to slowly start having a smaller and smaller role as they traded for Diontae Johnson. You draft Xavier Legette. Jonathan Mingo in year 2, maybe he takes a step, maybe he doesn't, I don't know. I think Thielen will regardless still be a starter all year, but I don't see him having another 1,000-yard season. I think Diontae Johnson really kind of takes the reins there. I think Xavier Legette will step up pretty big too. I see Adam Thielen getting more like 700 to 900 range. I don't think he cracks 1,000. But yeah, so he's B tier. Next is Brandon Aiyuk. Brandon Aiyuk is going A tier. Although this is interesting though, because as of right now, this is June 21st, I'm pretty sure. When we revisit this and do this video again, basically the same ranking, later on in July, he might not even be, on the 49ers then. So it'll be interesting to see what all changes as far as that goes. But yeah, Brandon Aiyuk, very, very good. Obviously some big contract talks going on there. He wants some more money. They don't really want to pay him. He's, kind of taking to social media to voice his thoughts on that kind of stuff. Regardless though, on the field as a player, this guy is very, very good. In my opinion, I think he's more consistent than Deebo Samuel. I think he stays on the field longer because he doesn't get hurt as much as Deebo does. I think Deebo is the better playmaker because you can get him, out of the backfield, all this kind of stuff. I think Aiyuk is the better traditional wide receiver, if that makes sense. At least in my opinion. Both are phenomenal players, but Aiyuk, I think, is very, 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 very good. So he's going A tier. Next is Brandon Cooks, and I see him in the same tier as Adam Thielen in that B tier range. I think in years past, you probably could have put Cooks in A as being like a very underrated, unsung hero almost of a lot of offenses that he's played in. But on the Cowboys, I really just feel like CeeDee Lamb's going to eat up so many targets. Also, Jake Ferguson, the tight end, don't sleep on him because he's very, very good. He's like sneaky athletic after the catch too for a tight end. I see Cooks the same way though. I don't think he breaks 1,000. I see him in that 700 to 900 range. I know I said at the beginning of the video it's not like a hard set rule for each tier as far as the yards go, but like, vaguely in the area of like 1,000 yards plus is kind of A tier and higher. Not to say that there won't be some guys that could get 1,000 and be, either lower or even higher than that, we'll get to all that. But yeah, Cooks, great player. I just think that he's kind of just getting older. CeeDee Lamb's only getting better. Dallas has already had a lot of weapons on the offense anyways, so yeah, I'm just going to put him B tier. Next is Brandon Powell, the wide receiver 3 in the Vikings as of right now. I'm going to put him in C tier. I don't see, and also just for the record, I see D tier as like just basically non-factor, so just throwing that out there. C tier, I think Brandon Powell will have his plays. I think he'll have a touchdown or two throughout the season. I think he's a reliable wide receiver 3. Not going to put him much higher than that. I don't think he's much more than that. Plus, you already have McCarthy at quarterback, who's a bit of a question mark, kind of in general. So I think if McCarthy is good, the ball is going to be going to Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison first. I mean, just no matter what. I think one of McCarthy's weaknesses that I've seen is actually him getting stuck on his first target more than anything else. And you better believe Justin Jefferson is going to be the first target. So, yeah, I don't see a big year for Brandon Powell, but I think he'll be like, I don't think you freak out having him as like a starter. He's very reliable. Next is Malik Nabers. So this is a really tough one to rank because his landing spot, like if he was not in New York, if this guy was in somewhere like, I mean, they wouldn't have, like 49ers, like they wouldn't have been up that high to pick him, right? But like if he was in that kind of offense, this dude would put up unreal numbers. A more realistic spot though from this past draft, like if he happened to slip a little bit further, or even actually the Chargers, they would have taken him instead of Joe Alt. I would be much higher Malik Nabers. With him and Justin Herbert, that would be crazy. At the end of the day, I don't believe in Daniel Jones anymore. I do think he can get the ball somewhat consistently, though, to Malik Neighbors. I don't think he's put up crazy numbers. I think he'll be able to do it well. I'm actually going to put Neighbors A tier. I think because look at the Giants' offense, it's not that good. I mean, there's no one else on paper that looks like they're going to be taking targets away from Malik Neighbors, like, at all. I mean, it looks like he's going to be the guy in year one. And the ball's got to be thrown to somebody. So I think it's going to be Malik Neighbors. I got him for at least 1,000 yards and having a very big rookie year impact. I wish he was in a better spot. I think it'd be more exciting if it was somewhere like LA. But still, Giants got him. I hope for the best for him and the team. But I do have him A tier. Next is Treylon Burks. And I think Treylon Burks got really unlucky. Previous season, well, I mean, not even really that. I mean, year one, you come in, people already, I'm not going to say they don't like you, but they're at least a little annoyed. They're watching you out there instead of A.J. Brown after the GM traded A.J. Brown away and took Treylon Burks in the first round. You have a solid rookie year. I wouldn't say it was great, but like he showed flashes. Kind of got hurt last year and like just wasn't really the best year for him. And now they've made so many changes. You bring in Ridley, you bring in Tyler Boyd. You still have Hopkins there. He's kind of buried on the depth chart, and with the new coaching, in there, that's not their guy. Like, they didn't pick him. He's just kind of left over from the old regime, basically. So they don't really, I don't think, have like a need or priority to want to get him in the game. So I feel bad for him. I don't see him as much as a factor, to be honest. I'm going to put him C tier though, and not D tier, and this is why. Because the receivers they do have in are not very young at all. Boyd, Ridley, or Hopkins. And I also don't see them staying on the field all game, every game, all year. Like, I don't want to be that guy and say, oh, they're going to get hurt or anything. I'm not going to say that. But I don't think you can look at those guys and say, oh, they're going to play, like, consistently all year, and it's going to take snaps away from Treylon Burks. I mean, I think it'll definitely take snaps away from Treylon Burks, but I don't think it's going to, like, put up a wall on those from this guy getting any reps on the field. Like, I think he's still going to see the field. I don't think he's going to have a very good impact, but like I said, D tier is very like non-factor. I don't think that's the case. I think Burks could get like 300 to 400 yards, and that's probably about it. So he's going C tier. Hopefully that all made sense. But yeah, so Chris Godwin's next. Chris Godwin, I'm going to put him A tier. And like, I would put him B tier if it was basically the same thing as last year. However, he's getting moved back into the slot. And for those of you that may not already know, or those of you that already know, then you probably know like where I'm going with this. Godwin statistically plays a lot better out of the slot. I mean, on paper, just watching, you can tell his impact is greater playing out of the slot. So I'm going to put him A tier. I think he can easily eclipse 1,000 yards this year. I think Baker really has a lot to work with as far as Mike Evans and him and Trey Palmer go. So I like it a lot. The Buccaneers offense is very, very solid. I think it's going to be a little different than last year after they lose their offensive coordinator and their head coach. Their offensive coordinator and their, I think, quarterback coach. But regardless, I think the talent is still there, and I think Godwin's an A-tier receiver. And joining him in A-tier is going to be Christian Kirk. Christian Kirk, before Ridley got there, to 2022, he kind of silenced all the outside noise as far as saying he's overpaid. I mean, he put up great numbers. Last year, you bring in Ridley. Kirk doesn't play as well. Ridley kind of takes up some more targets. Lawrence doesn't play very well. Kind of a down year overall for the Jaguars. I see this as a much better year, though. I think Lawrence is going to be back and healthy. I don't think Ridley was a very good fit, to be honest. I like where they are at now, though, with Christian Kirk. And you have Brian Thomas Jr. in there now as well. So Kirk's going back into A tier. I think he has a very good year. I think we see a lot more of what we saw in 2022 from him as being kind of the wide receiver one. I think it's going to be a very good year for Christian Kirk. Next is CeeDee Lamb, and so he's going to go S tier. Lamb is only getting better. It seems like Dallas has been very, very good, especially, I was going to say especially offensively, but they've been really good offensively and defensively. It just doesn't amount to anything in the playoffs for some reason. Hopefully this year it can really click for him. But still, CeeDee Lamb is a huge part of that offensive success. And I see him as a top 5 wide receiver this year. I think the talent's definitely there. I think the situation is there. I think he has a reliable quarterback with Dak. We've already seen it work out very well. That's just kind of it for me. Not a whole lot really changed from last year to this year. I think he's still got Dak, still had a very good offense. Who knows what it means as far as the postseason goes, but as far as the regular season, I do trust Dak to get the ball to CD. a lot, to be honest, and have a very productive year. So he's going S tier. Next is Chris Olave, and if you were a pretty frequent viewer of my channel, you know I like Chris Olave a lot, regardless of him being on a division rival. I think this guy's ceiling is very high. He's just in a bad situation. I mean, you see how good of a receiver he is. He hits 1,000 yards. He gets a lot of touchdowns. And I just think if he was not in New Orleans, it would be so much different as far as like the media perception of him. I think people already are kind of hip to understanding how talented he is. But I think, with him not playing for a big team, it's kind of hard to remember just how good of a receiver he is. And I think Chris Olave is awesome. So he's going A tier. The talent is definitely there. Next is Calvin Ridley. And, I mean, I think he's going to be in A tier. I mean, that's like, I'm not going to lie. I'm tempted to put him in B tier because from what we saw last year, did he have a good season? Like, yeah, definitely. A very solid year. I don't think it was as good as some people might have expected from him. Granted, he did have to sit out an entire year from football, so that probably has a little something to do with it. I think the situation is much different, though. With Will Levis, a lot of it hinges on Will Levis taking a step in year 2. I mean, if this guy, doesn't improve much, he struggles, it's going to really, really hurt the receivers. So I don't know. I'm going to keep Ridley in A because I think as long as Levis does take that next step, Ridley is probably going to be one of the best playmakers on that offense. I think he'll get the ball a lot, and I think he'll hit 1,000 yards. I think he'll have a very good season, but it does hinge a lot on Will Levis. And regardless, Ridley did not have the most consistent year last year either. Like some weeks would be like 110, others are like 30. It was kind of all over the place a little bit. I would like him to be a bit more consistent, but I think this year the opportunity is still there to be a great receiver. Hopefully Levis can take another step. Next is Curtis Samuel, and I'm going to put him B tier. I would love to put him A. You have Josh Allen. You have a great quarterback, but I can't see Curtis Samuel being on the level of the guys that we have in A tier, regardless of who his quarterback is. And I like Curtis Samuel a lot. He was in Carolina. I always wanted them to really keep him there. They didn't. He goes to Washington. I mean, this guy's a good playmaker. He's a very decent receiver too, but he can make a lot of things happen. And I think Josh Allen will utilize him very well, but I just can't justify putting him A tier. So good receiver, but I'm going to put him B tier. Next is Courtland Sutton. So again, this is kind of like Ridley in a way that a lot of this will hinge on the quarterbacks we haven't seen a ton from. Like Levis didn't have a full season last year. This year it's likely going to be Bo Nix for Courtland Sutton. So it's going to be interesting. Like that's all I can really say about it. You have Troy Franklin you draft. You have, I think, Tim Patrick back and healthy. There's a lot of different guys to get the ball, I think. I think Sutton is the best, though, and he's going to go A tier. I think regardless of who's in their quarterback, whether it is Bo Nix or it is, Zach Wilson, the other guy they traded for, Sutton should be the wide receiver 1 either way. So he's going A tier. Next is going to be Cedric Wilson, who actually went from the Dolphins to the Saints. He's going to go C tier. I don't see him as a non-factor, but I don't really see him being, putting up decent numbers. Like it sounds a little rude, but I see him as like a 300-yard receiver this year. Which honestly, now that I'm seeing that, Mitchell needs to be B tier because I do not see him as a 300 receiver. So yeah, he's going up to B tier. Next is Christian Watson though, and Watson needs to stay healthy, but I'm going to put him B tier. From what we've seen when he's healthy, he's a great player. He has good size, very good speed, and an offense where I trust Jordan Love to get, whether it's him or Jaden Reed or Dobbs the ball. I think it's going to happen. To a very high level. Watson's a good player, needs to stay on the field though. I'll put him B tier. If he continues to struggle with injuries though, this time next year we might be having different discussions with Christian Watson. So, but yeah, he's going B tier for right now. Next is Devontae Adams. Adams is going S tier. And it's like, it sucks seeing him on the Raiders. No offense, Raiders fans. I just can't help but watch his career kind of be wasted. And an offense that's just it's not coming together how I think it was supposed to. Like, it was supposed to be reuniting him with Carr, and then that didn't really work. But then you get rid of Carr, and Adams is kind of like, well, that's why I came here, because that's my college teammate. And then you have Aiden O'Connell in, and, you don't even get another quarterback. You still have Aiden O'Connell. You surround him with guys. Like, Adams is obviously one of the best in the league. You have Brock Bowers in there now, Jacoby Myers. It's not a terrible offense. I just don't trust Aiden O'Connell. But I think despite that, Devontae Adams is one of the best wide receivers in the entire NFL. I will say, though, if Aiden O'Connell really struggles, statistically, if we're doing this based off, just box scores and stats and numbers, which I don't like to do because it doesn't tell the whole story, but if you were to do it that way, Adams might be more A tier because I don't know if he's going to be able to get the production he's capable of getting with Aiden O'Connell at quarterback. I mean, I guess we'll see this year, but I think that definitely is at least a concern. So he's going S tier though, because I think regardless, he's one of the best in the NFL. Next is Demario Douglas. So this is someone that, honestly, I shot to a few of you guys. On my Drake May video I did like a month ago, I talked about how I thought that some of the guys they drafted might be able to take this guy's minutes. And the comments were a little split. Some of you guys said that you agreed and he would kind of slowly drift off. Others said that he's probably the best receiver the Patriots have right now. So I kind of got two different sides there. But regardless, I did actually, look into him more. I did watch some of him. And he's, I'm not going to lie, better than I realized. Like, he's a very good playmaker. He's good after the catch. And Drake May's going to need someone like that. I think the Patriots have needed someone like that the past few years, or Mac Jones too. I'm going to put him B tier. I don't think he puts up A tier numbers at all. But to be honest, I don't think anyone does in the Patriots because of just where they're at right now with how young they are. But again, I agree with a lot of you guys in the comments. I think he is actually capable of being one of the best on that team as far as receiver goes. So he's going B tier. Next is Hopkins. Hopkins has definitely lost a step. With that said, he's going to go A tier because I think people have expected him to lose more than just a step at this point, but he still makes some very big plays. I mean, we've seen him as like a downfield threat even last year with Levis, with the unreal arm Levis has. So Hopkins, I mean, even with him slowing down as his career is probably on the tail end now of his career, he's still better than a lot of receivers. It's very impressive. He's definitely A tier. Next is Diontae Johnson, and again, I've said before in all my past videos that I obviously am a fan, just like a lot of you. So I have teams that I like and teams that I don't like. And when I do my rankings, I try my very best to keep the optimism that I have for my own team out of the way, and the dislike I have for certain teams out of the way too. I try to rank as fairly as I possibly can. I think it does show, as I hope so. And so when it comes to ranking the players I am hopeful for this year, I got to kind of keep it very level. I'm not going to get too excited and let that weigh into it too much. Diontae Johnson, with that said, Diontae Johnson is S tier. But no, seriously, Diontae Johnson, I think it was a very good trade for Carolina. They've had zero separation at wide receiver since getting rid of DJ Moore. That is one of Johnson's best traits. I think he's instantly wide receiver number one. And I do see him hitting 1,000 yards, and that's been kind of the benchmark we've had for A tier right now. So I am going to put him there. I think there's definitely levels to it. Like, I think Cooper and Ayuk are definitely better than guys like Sutton and Kirk and Johnson. But that's just the way it works. Just because they're in the same tier doesn't mean like they're on the same skill set, if that makes sense. So at the end, I could rearrange this to be like every single level is like high A tier, low A tier. As of right now, this is just in no particular order. We'll just do that for right now, just like that. But Diontae Johnson, I do think will get a lot of the targets. I think Bryce Young needs someone like this, or needed anyone that's actually not a Walmart employee to catch a football. And Johnson's not a Walmart employee, so I think he's going to be very good. I think he does get 1,000 yards. I don't think much more than that, though. I think the Panthers' offense is better, but still not great. But regardless, I think Johnson does get A tier. Next is Drake London, and I'll tell you what, okay, Falcons fans, I'm going to put Drake London A tier because you bring in Kirk Cousins. London has all the physical tools to be a very good wide receiver in the NFL. He's made some good plays. He's shown flashes. But if it doesn't happen this year, I'm not ranking him A tier anymore, okay? Like, I can't keep doing this and saying, oh, he's going to, whenever this happens, he's going to break out. Like, this is really, for me, this is my last shot really getting excited to watch Drake London. I think it's all there. We just haven't seen it because he's had guys like Taylor Heineke and Desmond Ridder at quarterback. I think if anyone unlocks his potential, it is Kirk Cousins. That's why he's going A tier. I think he will have a very good season. I think you finally see him reach the levels that you can kind of tell that he's capable of reaching. I think the poor quarterback play just really held him and a lot of the guys in the Falcons offense back. So he's going A tier. But if he's not any better this year, then I'm done with it. Next is DJ Moore, and okay, this is tough. I'm going to put him S tier. We're going to rearrange this at the end, and I'm probably going to move some guys from S to A and A to S and stuff like that. So just wait on that. But for right now, I'm going to put him S tier. I think he is a step ahead of a lot of guys in A tier. And now it's like, we've seen what DJ Moore can do in Carolina when honestly he was very underrated, didn't get a lot of media attention. Last year he goes to Chicago, gets a lot of attention because it was Justin Fields and it was a new kind of exciting storyline to watch. He played very, very well. And now you're in an offense where you got Keenan Allen, you got Caleb Williams, you got DeAndre Swift. There's a lot of weapons on this offense. So to me, it comes down to two things. Number one, DJ Moore to still be the guy, because there's other guys on that offense that are going to be, getting open. Like, it's a very, very good offense. DJ Moore's not going to be the guy anymore. So to me, it comes down to that. Is he going to still be the number one target guy and get all these receptions? And number two, is Caleb Williams going to be able to, consistently get the ball to DJ Moore? And in my opinion, I think Williams is going to be a very good quarterback. I don't think he's going to be, league-altering. I don't think he has to. He's in a great offense. Just play solid quarterback play. You're going to be very successful in that Bears offense that they've built. All credit to Ryan Poles there. So DJ Moore, to me, I think is still the guy. I think Keenan Allen is phenomenal. But I will say Moore is younger than Keenan Allen. And I think he still has a lot more left in the tank than Allen. I think it shows after the catch. And I think Moore is still going to be wide receiver 1 on that team. But I will say, maybe Williams develops more chemistry with Keenan Allen and he eats up more targets. Maybe it's Cole Kmet, who knows? Maybe it's Roma Dunze. But for me right now, DJ Moore is S tier. Next is Darnell Mooney. I'm not very high on Darnell Mooney. I'm actually going to put him C tier. Some people may have wanted me to kind of put him B tier. I don't really see it. He goes from Chicago to Atlanta. There are too many guys in that offense for him to get the ball consistently and put up numbers that are consistent with the numbers that I've put guys in B tier getting. B tier is kind of like that, 500, 400 to, not 400, probably 500, 600, 700, around there, 800 maybe. It's really around there, even 900, because again, I said that this is kind of 1,000, right, in A tier. But Darnell Mooney, he's a fine receiver. I don't see much more than that. Too many mouths to feed in that offense, in my opinion. Next is Metcalf. He's going A tier. Metcalf is awesome. I think last year he averaged 15 yards per reception or something. I think that was Metcalf. Maybe I'm making that up and lying to you guys. But either way, very, very good player. Probably Seattle's best receiver. I am excited to see Jackson Smith and Jigba, though, year 2. But I still think Metcalf is still wide receiver 1. He's A tier. I got to kind of scroll down here a little bit now. It's going to be a little interesting. Debo is next. Debo is going A tier. I still think Ayuk is the better traditional receiver, but Samuel, huge playmaker, makes a lot of things happen out of the backfield and the receiving game. A tier receiver. Not much more to say about that. Next is Devontae Smith. Why are there so many at the front? Okay, whatever. A lot of A tier receivers at the front. Didn't really mean to have it stacked like this, but Devontae Smith is A tier for me. I really feel like the wide receivers in Philadelphia are S and A. It's not 1 and 2. It's 1A and 1B. Two really good receivers. Love Devontae Smith. I think a lot of people doubted him because of his size coming out of college, and he's been absolutely awesome. So all props to him there. Definitely A tier. Next is Darius Slayton. Darius Slayton, I will say, I think is definitely slept on a little bit when it comes to just how solid of a player he honestly is. He's going to go B tier, actually, because I do think the Giants' lack of weapons, it's got to be him and Malik Neighbors. I think Neighbors absolutely leads in receiving this year, no question about it. But I do think Slayton still has a somewhat decent year and is reliable, so he's going B tier. Next is Devontae Walker. I just did a video. My most recent upload before this was a video talking about 6 rookies that might really surprise some people that maybe not being either talked about enough or maybe being slept on. It's a kind of different variety. A couple round 1 guys, a couple round 2, 3, 4 guys. Go check that video out if you haven't seen it. Walker was one of them, though, so spoiler, I guess. He goes to Baltimore in a place where I'm not super confident in the wide receivers above him to keep this guy off the field. Nelson Aguilar, he's fine, but give Walker a shot. This is someone that was very good in college. He averaged 30 yards per touchdown in college. He didn't get to play a whole lot, I think, because of a whole transfer issue, and they did let him play. It was a whole thing, I think. But he's a great player. So I'm going to put him in C tier, though, because again, that sounds a little contradictory to what I just said. But at the end of the day, he is still wide receiver 4 on the Ravens. And there are guys that are very productive, like Zay Flowers, Mark Andrews above him, who also gets a lot of receptions. I still think Rashad Bateman, I think there's still hope for him. I think he can bounce back and have a good year. So there's still some guys above him. But I wouldn't be shocked if this guy comes in, gets a couple touchdowns, and gets around 300, 400 yards this year. Next is Elijah Moore, and he's just going to go C tier. He looked great in New York in year 1. And then he went to Cleveland. Then he went to stayed in New York. Was not very good after the horrible quarterback situation in New York. Then he goes to Cleveland. He's all right. I don't see a whole lot more for him though than just C tier. Next is Gabe Davis. Gabe Davis is gonna go B tier. I've seen some things have him like as like an A tier receiver and all this kind of stuff. I personally do not see it. He is in Jacksonville though, so maybe change of scenery, different offense, maybe it benefits him more. I don't know, but how can you benefit going from Josh Allen to Trevor Lawrence? And I love Trevor Lawrence. I think he's awesome, but there's a talent drop off there without a doubt. So Gabe Davis, in my opinion, is a B tier receiver. I don't think he's quite A tier. Next is George Pickens. George Pickens is going to go A tier. He's really the guy in Pittsburgh. I mean, wide receiver 2 is Van Jefferson. That's a big talent drop off from George Pickens to Van Jefferson. No disrespect to Van Jefferson, even though I just kind of disrespected him. But still, Pickens is a great player, and I really think he's going to lead in receiving by probably a good margin, at least in my opinion. He's going A tier. Next is going to be Garrett Wilson. Wilson is going to go A tier. I really think with Rodgers, this guy is going to put up, I mean, if Rodgers can stay healthy, please, I think Wilson will have a great season. I think everyone's just been waiting to see this guy play with a real quarterback because you can see when you're watching the games, you can see like, oh, he hasn't beat, ball's out of bounds. Oh, he hasn't beat, the ball's overthrown. Like, oh, he's, has it and then, out of his hands because it was thrown behind him or something. Like, you can tell the correct play held this guy back a whole lot. So I'm really excited to see him with a good quarterback in there. Garrett Wilson's definitely A tier. Next is Jordan Addison. Addison is going B tier, and Vikings fans do not kill me here, but here's the thing. Addison in an offense with Kirk Cousins, I have his A tier. I trust Kirk Cousins a lot to get the ball out to those type of guys. McCarthy or Darnold, a lot of question marks. I think Jefferson, obviously, with a talent like that, being wide receiver 1 like that, I mean, there's no denying you're gonna get the ball. You're making a ton of plays. Addison, I think he really benefited from a quarterback being able to see the field very well and distribute the ball very well. I'm not saying that's like talking down on Jordan Addison. Addison got open. He did his job. I'm just saying I don't trust the quarterback to consistently read the field, scan the field, and throw it to Addison enough for me to really put him on the same level as, say, Garrett Wilson, George Pickens, if that makes sense. Addison's awesome. I need to see more from McCarthy or Darnold first to actually rank him much higher. Next is Jermaine Burton. So Burton's an interesting one because, like, he has one of the more ideal situations for a rookie wide receiver because you have an amazing quarterback with Joe Burrow, but also you're behind people like Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, who is now officially back for one more year at the Bengals. I mean, those are two pretty big targets above you to where they're going to be getting a whole lot of attention. And then even after that, the Bengals, they like their tight ends too. You bring in Mike Gesicki. I think you still have, Tanner Hudson, Drew Sample, whatever his name is. Different guys, but you get the point. So I think there's a lot of different places this ball can go, and I don't know if Burton's going to get it consistently enough to be B tier. I'm going to put him C tier. I think he makes some cool plays. I think he's somewhat reliable. I don't think he gets more than like 400 yards in the season, though. He's going C tier. Next is Jamar Chase. He is going S tier. I think Chase, a healthy Chase with a healthy Burrow, is one of the best connections in the entire NFL. It's up there with, Kelsey and Mahomes. So, yeah, I mean, he's going S tier. I think Chase is unbelievable. I think he's shown just how good he is. I think he hit 1,000 yards actually last year, despite being with Jake Browning. And I think the year prior to that, I think he also hit 1,000 despite missing like 6 weeks with like a hip injury or something too. So this dude consistently gets 1,000. Huge playmaker. Yeah, S tier by far. Next is Josh Downs. Josh Downs is going B tier. And if you guys are just kind of wondering, like, why is he B tier? Why are, like, some of the Colts guys maybe higher than, maybe you guys think? I personally is just, I can't talk. I am personally just quite high on the Colts going into this year. I think they're not being talked about enough. With what we've seen from Anthony Richardson, and albeit a very small sample size, this is not someone who was as raw of a prospect as he was labeled. On the field, this dude was putting a lot of things together. He was making good reads, making good throws. He was deadly on the run, doing a little bit of everything. I think he can solidify himself as a top 15 quarterback this year. I really do. Josh Downs had a very good rookie year with Gardner Minshew in there. So with Michael Pittman in there, Josh Downs, that's why I wasn't as high on A.D. Mitchell. So Josh Downs I see having more like 800 yards, and I see Mitchell having more like 500 yards. So same tier, both great receivers, different yards-wise, if that makes sense. Mitchell's going B tier. Next is Jahan Dotson. I have to admit, I am going to kind of be out on Jahan Dotson. And I'm not going to lie, I'm going to be pretty pissed with myself if he turns out to be pretty good this year, because I was quite high on him the past 2 years when he hasn't really taken that next step I've wanted him to. Rookie year, he was kind of banged up. Last year, he wasn't as banged up, but he didn't really do a ton. Granted, the offense was very shaky with Sam Howell in there. So to me, now it's like, do I put him in B tier with guys like Adam Thielen and Christian Watson, even though I've never seen their quarterback play? I haven't seen their head coach before on this new team. Like, and he's already below Terry McLaurin. I don't know if I can do that. I got to put him C tier. The talent is there. I mean, believe me, the talent is there to be B tier. I just can't do it right now. He's going C tier. Next is Juwan Jennings. I think he's also going to go C tier. I think there's just, again, too many mouths to feed in San Francisco. Had a very good game in the Super Bowl, but, other than that, I don't see him having a big year all around, so he's going C tier. Next is Jerry Jeudy. He is going B tier. I think Jeudy just needed a fresh start. He was kind of hurt with injuries off and on in Denver. He made some plays here and there, but all in all, I mean, Denver as a whole was just all over the place. So I think he benefits from a fresh start there in Cleveland. I'm going to put him B tier. I don't see him at the same levels like Amari Cooper or anything, but I think he can definitely be, a very solid target there. He's going B tier. Justin Jefferson's next, so you guys want to take a wild guess where he is going. And then I'm literally not going to spend any time on that. Like, if you guys don't have Jefferson in S tier, I'm not really sure what to tell you at this point. Next is Jonathan Mingo. As a Panthers fan, I don't really know what to do about this because I think Mingo is very similar to someone I talked about before, Treylon Burks. Mingo is still very young, just like Burks. However, he was picked at a time where, since then, the coaching has changed a whole lot, and they've brought in guys to be ahead of him. So I'm not saying he can't be good, but the odds are stacked against him, for sure. You're now below Xavier Legette, who the new coaching already likes, more than you. They wanted him. They specifically wanted him. They had nothing to do with getting you. Adam Thielen is better than him. Diontae Johnson is better than him. Mingo's going S tier. Imagine if I did that. Mingo is going C tier, and that is it. Next is Jacoby Myers. Jacoby Myers is going B tier. Myers is a very reliable target. I think he was quite good in Las Vegas last year. So, again, Aiden O'Connell raises some concerns, but yeah, he's going to go B tier. Next is Josh Palmer, who I really did not realize he was almost bald until right now. Okay, Anyway, Josh Palmer is going to go B tier. LA is just a weird team right now. They're at a weird spot. They're rebuilding, yet they have a very good quarterback. So it's like, do I trust Herbert to really help elevate these guys to, like, being, really good players? Like, are they hitting 1,000 yards? Are they getting 8 touchdowns this year? Are they, I don't personally see it. I think they can have a good year, but not on the level of the guys we have at A tier. Palmer's going B tier, though. Still a good receiver. Next is Jalen Polk. This is someone I've also been quite high on. He was also in that rookie video, which at this point I might as well just tell you guys all the rest of them since I keep spoiling it. But I did a video on him. It was in that Drake Mid video. I talked about Polk because I think he's a great player. And I think New England is finally prioritizing getting weapons for their young quarterback. Something Mac Jones did not have the luxury of really having guys around him and being surrounded with good players. Polk, I think, is a great pick. With that said, he's going C tier because I think you see a lot of flashes. Actually, no. That's not true. He's going low B tier. We'd say like 500, 600 yards for him this year. I think you see flashes. I don't think you're like jumping up and down excited to see him in year 2. But I think you're very comfortable having him as a starter, going forward. I think Drake May will build some very good chemistry with him. I think Polk's a great player. He's going low B tier, high C tier, somewhere around there. Next is Jaden Reed. Reed is going to go B tier as well. He's a very good player. I did not give him the respect he deserved going into last season. Jordan Love was phenomenal. Reed was, pretty good too. I think he has an even better year this year, and he's going B tier because of that. Next is Jackson Smith-Njigba, and pretty much the exact same thing I just said for him, for Reed, goes for Njigba. I think, he's got some guys ahead of him that are, pretty good, but I think in year 2 he takes a step. And we've seen how good he was in college. We saw flashes last year. I think it's another step forward in the right direction this year. And Njigba going for like 600, 700 yards this year, B tier receiver. Next is Jalen Tolbert. I'm just going to put him C tier. I want to put him higher, but I don't see it. You're below Brandon Cooks and CeeDee Lamb. Solid receiver, but I can't put him much higher than C tier. Jalen Waddle is next. Waddle is going to go A tier. He's awesome. Complements Tyreek Hill very well. Just adds to that super deadly Dolphins offense. Very, very fast with a whole lot of talent there. So, yeah, he is going A tier. Speaking of fast, next is Jameson Williams. He's going to go B tier. I think he takes a step finally. We haven't really seen a whole lot from him yet. I think if he gets 700 yards this year, you're very happy, though. I think you're finally seeing this guy actually break out, utilize that speed, utilize the talent we know he has. So, yeah, he's going B tier. Next is Keenan Allen. He is going A tier. I think Caleb Williams, despite being a rookie in year one, supports two 1,000-yard receivers, being both DJ Moore and Keenan Allen. Allen, great player. Had almost either it was a career best year last year, or it was actually pretty close to it, despite the Chargers' struggles. I'm excited to see him in a new place. It's honestly kind of crazy they pulled that trade off. But, yeah, A tier, Keenan Allen. Next is Kendrick Bourne. Kendrick Bourne is going B tier. He's actually very good. I know he's coming off that ACL injury. Is he ready week one, Patriots fans? I don't know. Last I checked, it sounded like it was kind of up in the air. So, yeah, I think when healthy, though, this dude's really, really good. Good playmaker. New England needs as much depth and guys to step up at wide receiver as humanly possible. As many as possible to, prove they can, consistently make plays, help out that offense. Bourne, I think, is definitely one of them. He's going B tier. Next is Keon Coleman. This is going to be one of my more aggressive picks of this video. He's going A tier. And the reason he's going A tier is because I don't personally think Curtis Samuel is the guy to really have a huge year with Josh Allen. I think it's Keon Coleman as a rookie. I think he's a great jump ball receiver. I think he's someone that Josh Allen's going to love. You know how Josh Allen loves to scramble around sometimes and throw the ball deep when you're like, oh my gosh, what are you doing? And it's caught in double coverage onto the 5-yard line. You're like, oh, okay, never mind. Yeah, I think Keon Coleman's going to help with that. I think he's going to really find a spot there in that team. The Bills, all of a sudden, in 1 year's time, they have an issue at wide receiver. They need some people to step up. You got Khalil Shakir, you got Coleman, and you got Samuel as wide receivers 1, 2, and 3. I don't think I said in the correct order, but you get what I mean. And I think Coleman is going to not gonna say distance himself, but I think you're going to really see this guy in your run and be like, oh wow, this guy is going to be wide receiver 1 moving forward. So yeah, Coleman, A tier wide receiver, 1,000 yards as a rookie. That's like my big bold prediction, at least as right now. Maybe I have another one, but that is definitely one of my bold ones for this video for sure. Next is Khalif Raymond. Khalif Raymond is going to go C tier here. Reliable guy, not a whole lot more than that in my opinion. I think he's the one that's actually pretty good in special teams, if I'm not mistaken. But again, maybe that's wrong and I'm just lying. I don't know. Khalil Shakir is next. Khalil Shakir is going to go B tier. Again, great receiver, but because I'm so high on Keon Coleman, I see him taking a little bit of a back seat. I think he gets closer to like 800 yards, not more than that. I think Coleman surprised a lot of people, really sets himself apart. And Khalil Shakir, great talent, great player. We've seen it in years past, but not quite 1,000 yards or on the same levels as guys we've seen in A tier. Coleman's going there, like I said, and Shakir is going B tier. Next is Ladd McConkey. I have Ladd McConkey going B tier. Again, I see him and Josh Palmer both having good years, but they're in a weird offense. Like, I don't know what to make of it right now. Are they going to put up big numbers and I'm just going to be shocked? I don't know. I don't know what to make of it. And seriously, any Chargers fans watching, comment down below. Seriously, be unbiased. Knowing what you have this year on offense. Are you excited? Are you looking forward to it? Are you scared? I don't know. Let me know down below. Next is Luke McCaffrey, who I never realized looks so similar to his dad whenever he was playing. But yeah, okay, interesting. He's going to go C tier, though. And I think McCaffrey can be somewhat of a weapon. I don't see him having some kind of year where he really steps up and we're all shocked. Maybe year 2, but we got to see year 1 first. In year 1, I see being kind of minimally productive. Next is Marquise Brown. I'm going to put him B tier. I think he's going to have a solid year with the Chiefs, but I don't think it's going to be maybe what some people might expect from him. I'm more excited about Xavier Worthy. And, yeah, to be honest, I'm more excited about Xavier Worthy. I think Brown's awesome, but Worthy, I think he's a higher ceiling. I think we've seen what Marquise Brown can do in the league. Xavier Worthy, I think, especially Patrick Mahomes, can be used in all sorts of different ways. Just, Andy Reid, that playbook, he's going to drop some really fun plays with Xavier Worthy. Next is Malachi Corley, who was the rookie drafted by the Jets. You got Rodgers, but I'm not going to use it to justify putting you any higher than C tier. I think he can have an okay rookie year, but I don't see it being B tier by any means. He is going C tier. Next is Mike Evans, who we'll just throw in A tier because I don't feel like scrolling all the way up to S tier. At the end, I'm going to fix the way this is all formatted, okay? Just hang in there. Evans is A tier, 1,000 yards every single year. Definition of consistent, despite the circumstances around him. From Jameis Winston to Tom Brady to Baker Mayfield. The guy is always so good. Marvin Harrison Jr., that's A tier. I think I don't know another pro-ready receiver like this other than Malik Nabers that I'm going to be putting in A tier. And the only reason I have Keon Coleman there is because of the Josh Allen impact, to be honest, and the lack of competition at wide receiver. So, yeah, that's why he's A tier. Same for Marvin Harrison Jr. He's with Kyler Murray. It should be really exciting. He is the best receiver right now on that roster, in my opinion. And I think the same can be said about Malik Nabers. So, yeah, definitely A tier. Michael Wilson, who had a honestly pretty solid rookie year last year for the Cardinals. I think a full year with Kyler Murray will definitely help him out a little bit, and I'm going to put him in B tier because of that. Might seem a little weird, but seriously, go watch him year one. He was quite good in some very uncomfortable circumstances for a rookie wide receiver to play in, and he was very reliable. So you know what? I think he gets I think it's like 700 yards this year. 700 yards at least. So yeah, he's going B tier. Next is Marvin Mims. Marvin Mims is such an interesting one. He's going to go B tier. He's probably more like low B tier, but he is going to go B tier. Again, a lot of that hinges on Bo Nix. I don't know what that's going to look like at all, to be honest. I don't know how I keep going back and forth on how I even feel about Bo Nix, to be perfectly honest with you guys. So, yeah. Anyway, Marvin Mims, B tier. I think he will be getting the ball from somebody. I think he'll be having a solid year. Not sure who's going to be throwing it or how good they're going to be, but I think Mims will at least put up somewhat decent numbers. It just dawned on me that that is Malik Nabers. So that means, yeah, I put Brian Thomas Jr. as A tier and called him Malik Nabers. That's awesome. For the sake of the way this already looks, and I said I'm going to rearrange this at the end of the video, we're going to pretend that this is Brian Thomas Jr. And then at the end, I will switch where they are at, okay? So right now, this is Brian Thomas Jr. You know him as Malik Nabers. Now you know him as Brian Thomas Jr. So get that through your head. Brian Thomas Jr. going to the Jaguars. I like it a lot. It's interesting because Lawrence, we've seen what he can do. We've seen him with all kinds of different guys at this point, bringing Christian Kirk to bringing Calvin Ridley. I think regardless of whatever we've seen, I think Brian Thomas Jr. is going to be a solid receiver, and I'm going to put him in B tier because, I think he's just that's the level of player he is, the level of play he can play at, if that makes sense. I think it's going to be Kirk, Thomas, and then Gabe Davis. Personally, I'm just not very high on Gabe Davis, and I think Thomas is actually quite good, so that's why I have that ranking there as far as how the year would go for those three guys. So, yeah, Brian Thomas Jr., he's going to go B tier. And next is Michael Pittman, who is going to be going all the way up here at A tier. Pittman is not talked about enough of just how good of a player he is. Such a reliable wide receiver one. I mean, seriously, he comes down with a lot of catches. He's underrated after the catch as well. And now he gets Richardson for hopefully a full season. I'm excited to see it. He's definitely A tier. Next is Marquez Valdes-Scantling. Yeah, C tier. I'm not going to bother spending time on that. Mike Williams went to the Jets. Actually kind of exciting. He's going to go B tier. I want to see him with Rodgers. It should be a very fun offense. You got Garrett Wilson, Mike Williams, Malachi Corley, Breece Hall, Braylon Allen, and I can't remember Tyler Conklin as tight end. So, pretty good skill position group, to be honest with you, at least in my opinion. Mike Williams hopefully bounces back from the ACL tear pretty well. And, yeah, he is B tier. Next is Nelson Aguilar, who is going to go C tier because, personally, I don't see him having a great year. I see him getting, like, around 400 yards. And not much more than that. I think he's at the tail end of his career. And, yeah, Nelson Aguilar. I'm not going to spend more time on Nelson Aguilar in 2024. Next is Nico Collins. I'm putting him A tier, to be honest. Nico Collins is such a phenomenal player. He was huge for Stroud this past season. And, yeah, so he's going to go A tier. I truly feel like bringing in Stephon Diggs is not going to take away the ball. It's not going to take the focus off Nico Collins as much as people might think it would. Collins is a great player. It's not because of Stroud. Even before Stroud got there, Collins was making plays on a very bad Texans team. Next is Beckham. I love Odell, but I can't. I can't put him any higher than C tier. I love Odell. One of the best primes ever for any player to ever step on the field, but it's just not there anymore, unfortunately. So yeah, on the Dolphins, I think he'll make a couple cool plays, 400 yards, probably in C tier. Next is Paris Campbell, and again, I'm not spending a lot of time on that. Paris Campbell is going in the C tier. Next is Quentin Johnston. I'm putting him C tier. I don't think this guy is just going to really cut it in the NFL. And I hate saying that about any player, but I just don't see it. I mean, you look at last year, those drop issues were terrible. The route running wasn't very good. I mean, it was like, it was bad. It was like a bad fit. It looked like he was uncomfortable, just making very dumb mistakes. I hope he bounces back as a rookie. I really do. I like Quentin Johnston, but I don't know. You got Ladd McConkey in there. You got the other guy, Josh Palmer. You bring in DJ Chark too. Like, Johnson's have to step up to really actually give himself a spot in this team. So he's going C tier. Next is Rashad Bateman. So I'm putting Bateman B tier because I see him bouncing back. If he does not bounce back, this is going to be really awkward as far as the ranking goes. But he's shown how good he can be when he's healthy. He just hasn't really been healthy. Didn't really do a whole lot last year. But I think, you know, he's wide receiver 2 right now. Like, you have the opportunity. You're in a great offense. You have Lamar Jackson as your quarterback. If it's going to happen, it's going to happen this year. And if it doesn't, I'll be officially out on Rashad Bateman. But for right now, I'm clinging on to some hope he can still, you know, salvage a pretty decent career and have a good season. He's going B tier. Next is Romeo Doubs, who's also going B tier. I think he's had a very solid year. I'm not going to put him in A tier quite yet. Maybe he gets there, maybe he doesn't. I don't know. But the guys in A tier, I don't think are on the same level. I think they're a level ahead of Doubs, if that makes sense. So Doubs is going B tier. Next is Rondale Moore. He's in Atlanta or something. I don't care. He's going C tier. Next is Roma Dunze. Roma Dunze is going to be going B tier. I'm very high in the Bears offense, so if that happens to fail, then these rankings will probably age pretty bad. But Roma Dunze, very, very good wide receiver out of college. Wide receiver 3, gets to learn under DJ Moore and Keenan Allen. He's in a great, great spot. So, yeah, he's going B tier. Next is Ricky Pearsall. Speaking of being in a very good situation, you get to sit under Brandon Ayuk and Deebo Samuel. You don't have to be thrown out there when you're not ready. 49ers offense is just so good. And if Ayuk or Samuel happen to be dealt, now you get to step in as a starter in a very good offense. You know, it's a very good scheme and everything. I think it's a great fit. It was a good pick, an underrated pick. So I'm going to put him... okay, well, here's the thing. Because if he does have to sit under Ayuk and Samuel, probably not getting a whole lot of... I'll put him B tier. I don't care. I think he can get 600 yards. We'll call it like the minimum to be in B tier is like 600 yards. And I think he can get that as a rookie, despite the guys above him. So he's going B tier. Next is Rashee Rice. This is so... Okay, I don't know. Like, is anything going to happen with his legal situation? Is he going to be suspended for 6 games, 10 games? I don't know what's going to happen. As of right now, nothing like that's in place. So I'm going to predict this as if, you know, like I've said, nothing like that's in place. So with that said, I'm going to put him in the B tier. I think Xavier Worthy is really going to take full advantage of its opportunity. I think realistically, Rice is not going to have as good of a year because I think of the extracurriculars. Even if he isn't suspended, it's got to be on his mind because the NFL is going to do something about it, I would think. So I think it's just going to be one of those years where it's like, oh man, it sucks he, you know, got, you know, it sucks that this happened because it affected his play. I think it's one of those situations. I think he goes for more like 800 yards this year. Next is Rashid Shaheed. He's going B tier too. I see him also getting 700 to 800 yards. He's a very good receiver. I think, you know, Saints offense is a little questionable. I think it's fairly solid. You bring a new offensive coordinator, so it should be pretty good there. But regardless, B tier. Next is Roman Wilson in Pittsburgh. I'm going to actually put him B tier. I think he does get 600 yards. So, and since we kind of called that like the rough benchmark for B tier, you know, I mean, who's above him? Van Jefferson? And I'm not sure why. That's like my 3rd time throwing some kind of shot at Van Jefferson. I promise I have nothing against that guy, but like I just don't think he's much better than Roman Wilson coming to the NFL. Like I think Roman Wilson can take that spot. I think he can totally get the second most targets at receiver behind George Pickens. So yeah, he's gonna go B tier. I think he could have a solid rookie year. Next is Diggs. Diggs is going to go A tier. I think he does get 1,000 yards, but I think he does get less than Nico Collins. I think people have got so excited that Diggs is there, they forgot how good Nico Collins is. Nico Collins is a very good player. He was not made by CJ Stroud. Okay, I promise you, go watch Texans stuff from before Stroud. Collins was making plays. It just didn't matter because the team was so bad. And he's only gotten better. So yeah, that's kind of my take on that. Next is Tyler Boyd. I think Boyd goes B tier. You know, like Boyd's a solid receiver. At this stage in his career, he's probably nothing more than that. He's not gonna go make a ton of plays for you and be wide receiver one, but is he gonna be reliable and get open sometimes? Yeah, for sure. He's gonna make some plays. I think Levis will like him. I think he'll be reliable, very solid receiver. Going B tier. Next is Tank Dell. He's also going B tier, and the only reason he's going B tier is because of the guys above him. Like, it's gonna be a little tough, I think, to earn a ton of targets. And really, you know, like I don't think Stroud gets 3,000 receivers. Like, does he? Do we think that? I don't know. That might be kind of a rich guess. So we're going to put Dell down here closer to like 800 yards, I think, in that B tier range. Next is Troy Franklin. Troy Franklin might be a hot take. I'm putting him C tier. I don't think he gets much more than 400 yards this year because there's so many questions in Denver. Like, is Bo Nix going to be good? Is Zach Wilson going to come in? Is he going to look better for some reason? Is Sutton wide receiver 1? Is Tim Patrick back and healthy? Like, a lot of things to consider. Kind of all over the place. But yeah, we'll put him in C tier for right now. Might move him up again. I'm rearranging all this as soon as we're done ranking these. Next is T. Higgins. Higgins is going A tier when healthy. One of the best wide receiver twos in the entire NFL. So yeah, he's going there. Next is Tyreek Hill, who is going S tier. Obviously, I don't think anyone would like disagree with that, but I don't know. If you do, let me know down below, but tell me why, please, because I would like to know the reasoning behind that one. Tyler Lockett is next. He's going B tier. Very, okay, where did he just go? Very reliable, you know, really consistent, doesn't take a lot of hits. I think he's really, really good, so he's going to go B tier. Next is McLaurin. You know, okay, I'm not super high on the Washington offense. I think there's a lot of question marks there, but Lauren is still wide receiver 1, and I think Daniels will have some good chemistry with him, so he's going to go A tier. Lauren's very underrated. Year in and year out. For some reason, I thought I already ranked Xavier Worthy. That's why I kept mentioning him. I wasn't trying to, like, spoil that, but whatever. I guess we'll just do this now. I have Xavier Worthy as A tier. This was one of my other kind of bold predictions. I think he and Mahomes have a really exciting year. I think Andy Reid's going to scheme up some really cool stuff with Xavier Worthy. Mahomes specifically wanted Xavier Worthy, so you already know they've had stuff in mind, how to utilize him. Worthy's a great player. Insanely fast, fastest combine 40-yard dash time in NFL history. So yeah, he's going A tier. Next is Trey Palmer, and he's going to go C tier just because of the guys above him. Again, I just don't think he's going to really be B tier behind Godwin and Mike Evans. I think there's going to be a pretty decent drop-off after that. Next is Trey Tucker. Trey Tucker is a very solid receiver, especially in Las Vegas, because of all the question marks around that team with Aiden O'Connell at quarterback, which for me scares me off a little bit when it comes to predicting that team and even just receivers of having great seasons. Tucker is going to go in C tier because of that. So yeah, he's going C tier. Next is Van Jefferson. He's going to go C tier. Not very high on him. I don't see him being a great wide receiver 2 in Pittsburgh. I'm not sure why, to be honest, because now it sounds like I have this huge thing against Van Jefferson. I promise I don't. But I'm not super high on him. So yeah, he's going to go C tier. I think Roman Wilson kind of takes over that wide receiver 2 spot pretty much. Next is Wan'Dale Robinson. I personally am out on Wan'Dale Robinson. Could this guy be a good playmaker? Yes, but I don't think he's going to be consistent, and I don't think his quarterback is going to be consistent either. So to me, that just kind of screams inconsistency, just being discombobulated. I don't know. I don't love that there. He's going C tier. Next is Zaire Legette, who I think is going to go B tier. I think he gets around 700 to 800 yards this year there in Carolina. Very good build. Really good speed. I think Bryce Young will love this dude. I think he'll make a lot of plays down there. Panthers offense is going to struggle regardless. It's not going to look perfect in year 2. It's going to look better, I would think. But again, I don't think they really sets the world on fire and it's like an A-tier receiver in year 1. But I'd love it. I'd absolutely love it. But I don't think that's really the case. Zay Flowers, though, is going to go A-tier. Great rookie season. In a very good spot there with Lamar Jackson in Baltimore. He's a great player. And we're going to end off putting Zay Jones in C tier. So this is how the list looks as of right now. I'm going to zoom out so my face cam isn't really in the way. And if it is, well, actually, no, it shouldn't be. You guys can still see above that as I scroll up. So this is what we're working with. Huge tier list. I don't know how many people this is. I don't have to count it. I'll probably put in the title because this is the biggest ranking I'm going to do all off season. And I'm going to do it again a month from now and see what the changes are like. So Yeah, that's what we're looking like right now, and now I'm going to actually rearrange it and make it a bit easier just to see. Okay, so I rearranged it. I tried to make it kind of like an S, and listen, these are no rankings, okay? Jefferson is not 1, Hill's not 2, drop down to A tier. Amari Cooper's not ranked 8 and 9 and so on. This is still in no particular order. I tried to rearrange it a little bit to where it's like high A tier, you know, low A tier, high B tier. I'm sure I missed some. I did this in literally like the 2 minutes after I just finished making this list. But I did try to make it a bit more digestible to where you can kind of see like where some guys fall on this. I did keep C tier. I don't think I really moved that around. Just kind of kept it like that because it's C tier. That's just kind of minimal production coming from that tier. B tier I didn't move around too much either. I tried to just really put a lot of my attention in that A tier to S tier. I know it's one of the bigger names you guys really care about because like Brandon Cooks, like, you know, he probably wouldn't be, you know, top of the A tier. He's probably like, you know, I don't know, somewhere like this or something. But yeah, so no D tier. I don't see anyone in this being like a complete non-factor, to be perfectly honest with you. You know, let me know down below what you guys agree or disagree with, though. I'm sure you guys have plenty of things to say about, you know, where I ranked people. But again, to be clear, these are not rankings. Please do not comment saying, why is Chris Olave ranked 20th when he's, you know, and Marvin Harrison Jr. is ranked behind him? Why is Keenan behind? It's not like that. It's just kind of vaguely putting them in areas of like the high A tier to the low A tier. If there's any big things that you disagree, like if I have someone in C tier that you really feel like should be in B tier or B tier to like high A tier or even S tier, comment that down below. But if it's like, you know, just someone in low A tier to high A tier, like it's all the same category, I promise. But thanks for watching. I do really appreciate it. Make sure to subscribe down below for more rankings like this. I do live NFL content from ranking to like draft videos whenever it's that time of year, to like team news stuff, player news stuff, follow storylines and stuff throughout the NFL season. Yeah, a lot of stuff like that. I also have a second channel where I do Madden videos and college football videos in about a month as well. I know this is used to be like my main channel where I did Madden and NFL. It is only NFL now. So if you like Madden, go subscribe to the channel right there. Austin too. It's just my second one. But yeah, thank you guys for watching. I do really, really appreciate it. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out.